Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wrestleview Post-Raw number 159. I'm Mike Tedesco.
I'm Victoria Tedesco.
Wow, we're back from vacation. We're feeling much more relaxed.
Yes.
But man, what a time to go on vacation because WWE is heating up
Been on fire
in a way that I can't even believe.
It's hard to imagine this was the same show like a month and a half ago.
If you told me that when this year started and this 2022 started, that my love of wrestling would be completely and totally rekindled, and that I'd be like sitting around on like a Saturday with like nothing to do, and I'm like, man, like, I can't wait to recap Raw. I was thinking about recapping this show on Saturday.
I remember that.
And I was like, wow, like I can't believe I'm actually like anticipating. I'm excited to see what they do this week.
Honestly,
it's nice to like be excited for Raw, and when you watch it, it delivers.
So last week on vacation, Monday night rolls around, and where we're located down the shore, not good reception. So but there was this itch to do a show last week, because you were so excited to recap. Like when we were at the beach and we were in the pool, Mike's like, I want to recap. I can't wait. I'm excited to recap.
Yeah, I
later.
actually had to have a difficult conversation. Because I essentially said, like, one night of our vacation is going to be spent doing a Raw recap. Yeah. I couldn't I had Roy on standby and
you
thank you Roy for even offering, and he was at the ready, and I said to him, I was like, look, I appreciate you wanting to recap Raw, but just in case, would you be okay if I told you at like 6:00 on Monday that like I'm gonna recap the show? And he's like you can tell me at 7:59, it'll be fine. So that's what happened. I mean, I could not watch the show or recap it. That's how excited I was. And you know what? Last week was a phenomenal show. The week before was just great. Great follow up to SummerSlam. I mean, it's exciting to watch WWE right now. It's exciting with like gimmicks that I thought were totally dead in the water. For instance, like the Judgment Day. I thought the Judgment Day was just a horrible gimmick. It's still not. Look, it's still not great.
No,
but they've really done a 180 on the presentation.
But I think we established the fact too that, for the past few weeks that things are going to be on the upswing, but there are still things that need to be worked out. You're never going to get like it's not a miracle. It's not the miracle sense where like snap of the fingers and everything's just going to magically be better. There's still going to be flaws. And Judgment Day definitely has its flaws. Damian Priest definitely needs, we'll talk more about that in a few moments, but Damian Priest definitely needs work. But there's just an overall feeling that things are just better. You can watch a show and know that, okay, you have 3 hours and you're not going to be sitting there like the entire time, like, oh my God, I want to gouge my eyes out. So that's,
we've actually seen like on this show, just us recapping on Post-Raw, we've seen some of the absolute very worst that this show has ever put on. Nafis Sadat reminding me of Dean Ambrose, probably one of the worst Raws of all time. The ass injection. And now 4 years later to be talking about this show with this much excitement, and like I feel like a kid again. Like when 7:00 rolled around, I was like, man, an hour to Raw. And I was like really kind of getting kind of amped up, to actually watch the show and recap it. It feels like it's like that feeling I get when I'm going to recap like a big pay-per-view.
Yep.
Like even I dare say even, like kind of like a WrestleMania feel almost every week for me, like, because with Vince gone, obviously there's a lot of curiosity about the show. The site numbers are way up. People are really excited to, see what the heck happens on the show.
Yes.
Read the recap.
Yep.
See, what I thought about it. Share their thoughts in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great time to be a wrestling fan again. And I really feel like, every week is like, I got to be on my game. Make sure that, like I'm describing the show, recapping to the best of my ability. And with the vacation, we were even saying like, man, last week we were talking about on our vacation that we wish that the internet was better there so that we could
do a show.
Actually do a show. We would have done a show.
We would have done a show
last week on vacation. That's how excited and how good we think this show is right now.
Uncle Billy makes a good point. People working look happy too.
Yes.
So it's not just us as the fans, it's the individuals, the superstars who are working, and probably backstage too. All the writers and people producing. I'm sure there's just a sense of relief in some sense where you're not like having to worry about what's going to be said to you. Because this, the smallest thing would set Vince off.
Right.
So that had to be a lot of pressure.
He would give you 3 weeks to get over, and if you didn't get over, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is just, those days are over for at least for now. Those days are certainly over. People are going to get, like how it usually goes in wrestling and really anything. It takes time for things to really get over. I just finished rewatching Breaking Bad, and I'm going to watch the season finale, series finale, Better Call Saul, after I finish the show tonight. And Breaking Bad, obviously one of the greatest television shows that ever happened, that has ever been made. The first season, it's like, what's so great about the show? When's it going to start picking up here? I mean, it was well acted and fine, but it's like there was nothing like overly exciting about like about the first season. It took a while for that show to get warmed up, but damn, when it got warmed up, it was off and running. But if you judge Breaking Bad just based off that first season, you'd be like, is it going to get picked up for a second season? Well, I mean, by the way, the end of the first season, of course it would be.
Then it would be, yeah.
Like nothing, happens the way that the old man really thought it did. Like for example, on tonight's show, we had 2, arguably 3 pay-per-view quality matches on the show. And the old way of thinking, the old way of doing it was we can only have 1 really good match on the show.
Yeah.
That's all the people can handle, and it's just not the case.
Not at all.
Like you can have multiple matches that are really great and people will enjoy all of them.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know why that wouldn't be your goal to begin with, and have that expectation for yourself of 1 match needs to be good. Why shouldn't the goal always have been to have all your matches be good?
Or how about even like, following up to somebody, who had a big match and they came out on the losing end, like a Ciampa, who the build to the Ciampa Lashley match last week was fantastic. Like really, like the video package, the Harley Race thing, the robe, the match itself, everything was designed to get you to believe in Ciampa. And there were a few moments in that match that I really believed that Ciampa was going to beat Bobby Lashley. That's how well they built that up. And I was really excited about the United States Championship after that match. Mm-hmm. But the follow-up has always been the problem. How many times have I argued with people on this show about like they ruined him? Like they crushed this guy. There's no hope.
Or they're going to.
And they'd be like, oh, Mike, wait for the follow-up. And then the follow-up is the guy getting brought out on a stretcher.
The follow-up is always worse.
Or not even appearing on television anymore. Ciampa tonight had good follow-up. Now, there was nothing spectacular about anything that happened, but he was in a match. He had the big spots in the match. Mm-hmm. He got the pin in the match.
Yep.
That's how you follow up on a career-making performance in a sense. I mean, Ciampa is somebody who has an incredible career in WWE with NXT. His career there was, it's unmatched in how great it was for NXT.
Yeah.
And also he had a great career before WWE. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, I don't mean career making in that sense, but I mean for a wider audience on WWE television. For sure. That's like a statement match. How do you follow up with a statement match? Tonight was a good way to do that.
I think for some people, it's going to take some rewiring because overall, I've seen a good perception of everything where people have good feelings about it and are excited. You still get those naysayers who are very much like, oh, like I still didn't see this and it wasn't overall exciting and it wasn't whatever. it's not going to be like that every week, and it shouldn't be like that every week. You shouldn't. Yes, you should
Actually,
be excited for the show.
This show was exciting.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like in general, right? Your follow-up's important, but if something isn't like so over the top, that's okay. Doesn't mean it's not good. It's just that we've been conditioned for the longest time, like it has to be this big spot and this big moment and this big whatever, when in reality it just needs to be good consistency in storytelling and wrestling consistency. That's really what a good follow-up is, a good progression is in a show. It doesn't have to be all the fluff and the song and dance type thing. It's not that. But I think for some people it's going to take time to condition themselves to understand that going back to the basics and a simple progression and really getting things to where they need to be organically is what we need to come back to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's just, it's good to watch this show again and just be totally excited about what you're seeing. You know, really. Now, of course, there hasn't been like any major seismic shifts in ideology on how the show is presented. They are definitely saying words that were banned before. Number one, in Drew McIntyre's program, his promo tonight, he said, "Wrestling, we're wrestlers. We're in a wrestling ring. Let's wrestle."
Love it.
You know, that was definitely like,
that's a change.
That's a change. He also called the people, that's what the fans deserve. He said fans, not the WWE universe. Not what the WWE universe deserves.
No.
You know, it's like I I still remember back to those promos from, oh God, it must have been 5 years ago, 6 years ago, or whatever. They had that pay-per-view. It was like WWE Roadblock, and then they put like a tagline on it, "End of the line" or something like that.
Whatever it was.
And they had to like cut, and at Roadblock, end of the line. It's like, come on, really? Who talks like that? They would just say Roadblock. People just say Roadblock. You know, come on now, please. You know, like those are definitely changes. You know, the way the women are being presented again, that's a change. The people that they brought back that, you know, Vince and others had lost faith in, you know, that's great. But, you know, I mean, we still had, you know, a match with a disqualification ending. We had, you know, matches with, you know, interference, you know, or implied interference that, you know, could have led to a DQ. So you're like, we're doing this again. And we also, there's also an issue. And it's been an issue. We've talked about this many times.
Oh, you know me especially.
With just, you know, quality control. You know, my issue always with watching this, and you know, like I've talked ad nauseum now about how wrestling's a variety show, right? You know, like, and I it's at its best when it's a variety show where you have, you know, a guy that wrestles like Rey Mysterio, you know, bringing the lucha libre style in against a powerhouse like a Lashley or somebody like a Damian Priest or you know, a guy who has a European style and Finn Balor, and then you have Nakamura who has the Japanese style. There's all these different styles coming in, technical wrestling, brawling, hardcore. That's where it's at its best, where every match looks different. And, you know, this, you know, a guy could face one person one week and then face another guy the next week. And the matches are totally different because of the styles clashes happening there.
Yeah.
That's where it's best. You know, still, I'm noticing that people are repeating moves in matches. And there needs to be a little more variety in the move sets.
It does.
You know, like I think I think that, you know, look, there needs to be a conversation that needs to be had at some point. You know, they're not going to fix everything overnight.
Not at all.
You know, they're not, like, there hasn't been a drastic change from the Vince regime. I mean, in presentation and storyline quality and follow-up and even backstage interviews, there certainly has been a change. Commentary is much better.
Much better.
But, you know, there's still some things that are going to take time to kind of phase out, and you have to kind of unlearn some of the sins that they've committed.
I would say this.
I just want to say, I saw in the first 3 matches, a Michinoku driver was used each time. AJ Styles had a near fall with a torture rack bomb. And Theory had a near fall with a torture rack bomb. I see too many people hitting super kicks. I see too many people, you know, doing suicide dives and planchas and stuff. Like, I'd like to see everybody have like their own signature moves rather than everybody just doing the same signature moves that everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Like especially on a 3-hour show, it stands out a lot more.
For sure. 100%. And now you are getting more matches. I find in the past few weeks, we've actually just been getting more matches in general, less video packaging, less of the promos, things like that. So you're 100% right. There needs to be that change in the variety of movesets. Moves need to be dedicated to individuals. Of course, you're going to have your repeat moves in some aspects, but certain things should not be repeated throughout the night. If you're having it in the one match, don't do it in the other matches. It's not necessary.
Well, and that all just comes down to quality control. That could be the agents, planning out the spots with the performers, and they're not communicating. The agent should have a meeting after they have their meetings with the talents and say, okay, in this match you're going to be doing this spot with a suicide dive and this. Okay, all right, how important is it to your match? And then they can negotiate. Okay, I'll have my people, plan to do something else, stuff like that. Like that. Those are little things that I think could definitely be improved on. But the grand scheme, it's not an issue.
I call it right now under construction. We're under construction.
Yeah.
We're seeing the improvements. Hopefully it's not Jersey construction, because Jersey construction is the worst.
Okay. Well, it takes them forever.
But we're under construction. It's a work in progress, and even the smallest bit of changes are working right now. Yes. And I'm all about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's get into the show. But first, let's say hello to everybody. We've been on the air for a few minutes now. Yes. We haven't said hello to our loyal fans here. We got our dear friend Nafis Sadat, of course, who does think that Corey Graves is insufferable. I don't disagree. He's gotten better since Vince has stopped egging him on. He's gotten better. Even Byron is much better.
Oh, which I never thought.
I gotta tell you, the one thing that I loved that happened tonight was, Byron is so locked into that Vince style of commentary that it, there's gonna be some people that cannot move out of that mindset because they've just been trained so well to do it. I think Byron's gonna be one of them, because he's saying, he just spouts off like a Vince line, like, oh, Dakota Kai going against the veteran Dana Brooke, and then Corey Graves like, what are you talking about? Dakota Kai's been wrestling way longer than Dana Brooke has even been in a wrestling ring. Are you kidding me? And he goes, oh well, I mean, in WWE, she was in NXT and was was there pretty much just as long as Dana Brooke was. Are you kidding?
I love it.
He goes, well, a veteran on Raw. He goes, please. Like, I was like, oh, he's right. He's right.
I think he still thinks that Vince is coming back somehow.
Right. Especially because they've been putting a lot more emphasis on history now, showcase, embracing their history rather than running from it. Like, which that was like the weirdest thing. I know we talked about this on the SummerSlam show, but can't be overstated enough. Like doing callbacks to like, oh, we had this match like, X amount of years ago. It's the first time Edge has wrestled in Toronto in 10 years. This is, like these are important things. Like WWE has a rich history, and they have a rich video library that could showcase all of this rich history as well. Why not embrace it? Like I always thought it was like so weird that like Vince said, oh, you can't call WrestleMania by numbers anymore. It can't be WrestleMania 34 or 35, or we're going on WrestleMania 39 this year. You can't say that because people will think it's old. It's like nobody doesn't watch the Super Bowl just because it's like Super Bowl 52. It's like, oh, 52. Passe, old,
stupid.
Everybody watches the Super Bowl.
All right, let's go back to saying hello to our.
Yes. Anyway, yes, we're gonna say hello to everybody. I just have a lot to say about this.
You're like Meltzer right now. I gotta. Oh God, I'm like Brian. I gotta reel you back in.
What are you trying to say? Daniel Shell, our dear friend Daniel Shell, is here tonight. We got Jamel, Eastside Reviews. Check out his channel. He's got a lot of great stuff on his channel. Please do. Randy Torcola, he's here tonight. We got Uncle Billy Hefner here. Quentin Walters.
Quentin's not feeling that great, and he's still here promoting. So,
and he's also reminding us to remind you to please like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Please hit the notification bell so you can be up to date on any wrestling news and live podcasts like the Post-Raw show. Please and thank you. Also, check out the Wrestleview website and all the social medias and join in on the conversation.
Putting in the work and not feeling 100%.
He's doing it all.
He's doing it all.
You got Scotty Poindexter. Scotty, what's good with you, man? How are you? Hope all is well. We had Goosey here. I know I saw Goosey before. He told me that I desperately need to get help for recapping the show on my
during vacation.
It's true.
Mashoon Walls, hello.
Mashoon. All right. Quentin is the Wrestleview hype man.
He really is. He really is.
And if I didn't say hello to you yet, just pop in the chat, say hello, and we'll make sure we give you a shout. Now, let's get into the show because it was a good one. It was really, really good. I'm excited to talk about it now. All right. So the show kicks off with the Judgment Day. Now, we were talking about the Judgment Day before as like one of those gimmicks that, it went from being dead, absolutely dead. It was really dead on arrival. Yeah.
It wasn't good.
The thing with Edge never worked. And then they put, Finn Balor in there and that didn't seem to be working either. But all of a sudden, Vince retires and Triple H takes over. And the very first night on Raw at Madison Square Garden, you have Rhea Ripley in an I'm Your Poppy shirt dominating Dominic Mysterio.
I can't.
And these guys all of a sudden stop looking like hapless losers and start looking like killers.
Sorry, I just saw the way you described it.
Well, they were. What a difference a regime change
right?
makes. It's incredible. They took this gimmick that really, it was just dead. And Rhea Ripley was just like, it's like, I remember the night they debuted her in the stable and her very first full-time night on the show, like they put her in a match where she was like booked to lose a couple times. Like, just like she didn't look strong coming out of it. And then she got injured. She did get the women's title shot and then she got injured during the match that she won the shot at, and she never got it. So that is lurking in the background, but she was really going nowhere fast with what they were doing for her. She comes back from the injury at Madison Square Garden, dominates Dom. And now for the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing that Rhea Ripley is like emerging as the leader of this stable. It seems like,
man,
dominating Dom Mysterio.
I don't hate it. I'll tell you that
him
much.
Up like he's a little baby and just beating him up and ragdolling him. And Ray is helpless to, help his son. Damian Priest, Finn Balor has looked good in this. He's been much better. They even called attention to the fact that, he does have a past that's outside of WWE and he's a great, wrestler.
Yeah. So has a history.
They mentioned his legacy, which is, that's good. We like legacy. We have to understand, why should we care about Finn Balor? Oh, he has a history and he's done things. Okay,
there's more to him.
Okay. The only one who's really still struggling a little bit is Damian Priest.
I wouldn't even say a little bit. He's still struggling.
Yeah,
he definitely got a lot better.
I still think he's trying to find himself.
I do too, and I that might also just be a thing of like he was so new in some regard that he's still trying to work around it. Because if you think about it, like you just said before, Finn Balor has a strong history. There's more to him than just WWE and what he's done and everything else. Rhea Ripley too, she's been with the company for a while, and Triple H was very much like very supportive of her. And
these are all Triple H guys.
No, yeah, but Damian Priest he's very much in that like, okay, can I just say what Randy Torcola said before? I think this is actually a very good point. He said it still feels like Edge had an idea, Vince had a different idea, and Edge left.
Yeah.
I get that same feeling. Like, I feel like there was some sort of plan that Edge had, and then Vince kind of put the kibosh on what the intentions of what Judgment Day were supposed to be.
Well, Edge even talked about in his promo that when he came back, to Raw after SummerSlam, he basically, it wasn't a scripted promo. It was very clear that they sent him out there with bullet points on, what to deliver. But he mostly, did it himself. And he said, like, when I formed the Judgment Day, it was to take people that were essentially not being well used and try to impart some of the knowledge that I've had, and bring and elevate them. And that's just, and it just didn't happen.
No,
they turned it into some goon squad bull that just was not working whatsoever.
Because I think personally that with Damian Priest.
Yeah. Uncle Billy's right here. Vince wanted magic.
Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. Let's bring it back to that magic concept. I think with Damian Priest, his role should solely be like, I'm here. I'm a presence. I give a strong presence where like I'm this big guy. I'm
he shouldn't
tall.
be talking.
He should not be speaking. I think he really should be a muscle man where he's just there for the look of it. Intimidation where he'll come up to you and give you a stern look and like tower you type of thing. But that really should be the extent of what he does. Maybe say something like a sentence, but not a full-on promo.
Right.
I feel like his role should just be intimidation. Let Rhea Ripley, Finn Balor take care of the rest. Like, do you know what I mean? So
I think that the way he was booked under Vince was just so confusing and so awful that he's all kinds of twisted, and I don't think he can. I don't think he knows what's safe to do yet.
I agree.
So I think this match, and by the way, even though he struggled on his promo tonight, they still did an effective job of building up this match with Damian Priest and Edge in Toronto next week. They started building it last week. They made us wait 2 weeks for it. I'm really excited for the match. I think this is going to be kind of like, a chance for him to have a second chance at a first impression here.
Agreed.
I think it's going to be really important for Damian Priest to have a good showing against Edge in Toronto. And really what's going to be really important is what creative does here. How do they how is the match structured? What's the finish going to be? How strong is either one of them going to look coming on a losing end? There has to be a finish. I think there has to be a finish.
Yeah, it can't be.
They built it for 2 weeks. Right now, we're all about rebuilding the goodwill. There's a lot more eyes on wrestling and on WWE in general.
Yeah, good point.
If you look at the ratings, I think the Fox ratings for SmackDown would have been way up if there weren't NFL preemptions in certain markets. But Raw has been way up, even though it averaged under 2 million. It was just slightly under 2 million. It wasn't like, oh, it's a catastrophic fall from the night after, or 2 nights after SummerSlam that Raw did over 2 million, average over 2 million for the first time since Raw after WrestleMania.
And I would say it's actually pretty decent numbers considering
it's
it's the summertime too. Yes. People, you have to factor in the idea of people just might be on vacation and just doing things, but
summer's always been kind of a dull period.
Yeah. So I mean, with the exception of SummerSlam, obviously, but
and these numbers aren't really spectacular when you think that just 3 years ago they were averaging near 3 million. But this is a big pickup for Raw. So we have a lot more eyes on the show. You don't want to be crushing goodwill by building up matches, which number one, it's just amazing that they're building up matches, that they announce a match is going to happen. They promote it. And then when you watch the show, it actually happens. That's a big change. That's a big change in philosophy from what Vince was doing for the last couple years.
Script and it's just
no one's tearing up the script as the show's going on and writing it as it's going on. Like there's actual thought put into this. So, now you're getting people excited and believing that when they promote something, they're going to deliver on it. Then you have to deliver. So there has to be a finish in that match.
No.
What are they going to do with it? That's the big thing, and that'll really, kind of drive what they do with Judgment Day as well.
And I think Jamel's right, where it's not impossible to make Judgment Day a good group. It's not impossible by any means. You just have to structure it a little bit differently.
Yeah. Absolutely. Maybe even add one more person to it, probably a person that can do the talking for them. I think the one thing that we're going to see under Triple H is the return of the manager. and not just Paul Heyman, not just MVP, but actually having, other people doing talking, like a Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler could definitely benefit from that. But for sure, Judgment Day could, and I'm sure there's somebody lurking in their system that can cut a good promo, or even that's available that maybe isn't even signed yet that could cut a promo. So look, it's night and day. There's still issues with the Judgment Day, but it's night and day to what they're doing.
For sure.
Oh, there you go, right there. Paul Ellering. Yeah. Now it's just the question is, does Precious Paul want to? I know that when they did AOP, one of the things that they said was, they broke Paul Ellering off of AOP the night they debuted because Paul didn't want to travel, and then Paul went on. Hall of Fame manager, by the way, Paul Ellering. People I think sometimes forget just how great that guy was with the Legion of Doom, or they said, oh, he doesn't want to, and then he goes on a radio show and says, oh yeah, I do. I would have. I don't know why they did that. So I would like to see Precious Paul back. I would like to see that happen.
Why not?
That's a tried and true guy, and he does the dark material very well. Like with AOP, he was really good at being like the sinister manager. I even think he's a little cartoony and a little over the top, but like a guy like James Mitchell's like sitting out there. James Mitchell, the freaking Deacon. He could do it. He might have a role, but I don't know. James Mitchell's kind of over the hill and not that great, but I'm just thinking of names. Thinking outside the box. But I think the return of the manager is on the menu. I could see that absolutely happening. Because Triple H did a lot of experimenting with managers when he was running NXT, so I could see him trying to bring that up here. Now after this, they kind of teased the crowd and got them really fired up by saying, Edge isn't here and the Mysterios aren't here. I'm going to put the nail in the coffin of Edge's career. All of a sudden, Rey Mysterio sneaks in, drop kicks Damian Priest. They have a great brawl.
Oh yeah.
And it winds up that, Rhea Ripley, stands in the way.
Man.
And right now they have a thing where, guys can't touch Rhea. They can't, you can't, and for obvious reasons, the optics would be horrible for, WWE, like have guys beating up women and stuff like that.
Especially now too.
But, she's playing a big role in this group and really sinister in how she goes about it. I even like how she said, like, I've been proving that I am his Poppy, after a while.
It's just, wow.
She DDTs, Rey Mysterio on a chair.
She's a little too good at this.
They did the coup de grace on, onto the chair, onto Rey. It was really good. It was a good beat down for the Judgment Day. They look like killers. That's what you want. That's what you want. First round tournament match for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Asuka and Alexa Bliss go over Nikki Ash and Doudrop. This was a fine match. Nothing wrong with it.
It was okay for me.
I wasn't in love with it, but it was still pretty good. It's just Nikki Ash. That's one thing. I know that they've there's been rumors floating around that Triple H had a conversation with Piper Niven, who plays Doudrop, about doing a name change. And I think they also need to have that conversation with Nikki Ash, and just, it's time to move on. Now, at least they ditched the cape.
Yeah, really.
So they're kind of distancing themselves from some of the dumber aspects of that character, but it's still stupid. And I'd like to, now that they've been eliminated from the tournament, which was never in doubt. And that's why I'm glad they put it on first thing on the show. Just get it out of the way and just be, move away from it.
Yeah, we don't need to.
Now would be a good time to kind of repackage that team, just kind of get them back to doing what they do best. Yes, Brian Farmer also bringing this up, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. You actually are touching on one of the things that I was going to mention with the return of the jobber match is a very welcome development. I'm even thinking, skipping ahead a little bit, Veer Mahan faced this guy that looked like, Jay from Jay and Silent Bob, and just crushed this guy. But I thought it was such a well done squash match. They made Veer, who we haven't seen in a while. I think over a month is the last time that we've seen
I
Veer
really like
Mahan.
Veer.
Maybe even over a month that since we've seen Veer. It's like we had all that hype, months and months of hype for Veer. And then he comes in and Vince has this new toy, has him squash a couple people, including the Mysterios, of course, because that's just his favorite.
Because why not?
And then he disappeared because Vince got tired of him. Well, they brought him back tonight. They brought him back into the fold, and they made him look like a killer, a monster. Crushed this guy, threw him over the top rope.
Keller.
Especially after the guy kind of outsmarted him a little bit. And he throws him over the top rope, avalanche. I loved it. It was everything that was great. Omos, who I'm not very high on, quite low actually, had a great squash match against two losers last week. I love squash matches as a rule.
Me
I just
too.
love watching people just get.
I just think it's just fun, and it has a purpose to it.
It really does. But I was almost thinking like, God, this guy, Bo Keller, whatever his name was.
Yeah, it was Bo Keller.
And even the two idiots last week. I'm sure they're nice guys. I was like, if we're gonna start like having these squash matches again,
yeah,
like I wouldn't mind seeing like a Barry like them actually hiring a jobber and having a jobber on the roster, like a Barry Horowitz again, or an Iron Mike Sharp, guys like that.
Yeah.
I was thinking like, God, Bo Keller, freaking.
Yeah, imagine Bo Keller's just a thing.
Have him come out and just that's his job.
That's literally his job.
There are worse jobs to have out there, than traveling the world and getting beat up on TV every week.
Why not?
I
wish I could be a female jobber.
Really?
If I had any athletic ability, I would be a female jobber.
Yes.
Why not?
Why not? I think, like I was thinking like, God, like, like there's so much they could do with this. But I just really got a kick out of that. It was really, really good.
I love the teasing component of it too,
Yeah. It's
great.
And it also breaks up like, especially like, because the show had a lot of long matches tonight, like the US title match had 2 commercial breaks, Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre, they had that great promo and then they did the match and that match had a commercial break in it. And it was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal match. To have a match that goes one, that's starts and ends within a segment, even the women's match that we were just talking about before, the tag match, had a commercial break in it. The main event had a commercial break. The only other one that didn't really was Dakota Kai, I think. I think I'll go back and look at the
I don't think
matches.
it did because it was
no, it didn't have it.
No,
I'm saying.
No.
That's the only other one that didn't have a commercial break. Looking. Or Ciampa and The Miz, did they have a commercial break too? Yeah, they did. So every match had a commercial break except for like, the squash match. It's just nice to have a match start and end in the same segment.
Yes.
And it's quick and all action, painless, and you just move on. I think that's it breaks up the show a little bit. And again, we're talking about variety. That's a different style match. A jobber squash match. But really important to be done really well. And I thought, last week the handicap match against Omos was done really well. And I thought this guy tonight, this Bo Keller, showed something.
He did
of being a good jobber.
Yes. It's important.
That is not a bad role to have. Having the Heath Slater role, in recent vintage, if you will, or like a Santino, being a really talented guy, at making other people look good and losing while not losing it. I think it's a strong.
I'm telling you, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Strong spot to have.
If I had any athletic ability.
Anyway, the finish to this first round match in the tournament was not in doubt because Io Sky and Dakota Kai had won, the previous week. And it's like, well, what's the bigger match? Io Sky and Dakota Kai versus Nikki Ash and Doudrop, or Alexa Bliss and Asuka, who they've been feuding with and will have a pay-per-view match against in a couple of weeks. It was never in doubt. So next week on Raw, in addition to Edge versus Damian Priest, we'll have Io Sky and Dakota Kai versus Alexa Bliss and Asuka in the semifinals of this tournament that will probably be interrupted by Sasha Banks and Naomi whenever the winner is crowned.
Yeah,
it probably will. I mean, we're just being honest. Then they
can I just say something? No, never mind.
Go ahead.
No,
say it,
because you said about Sasha Banks.
Say it.
A little sidetrack, but this is Wrestleview here. So
we talk about news on the show too.
Everyone giving her crap about the fans thing. And I'm not a Sasha Banks fan. You know this. I'm really like, she's not my favorite person by any means. But I will say this though. Anybody who was like, oh, she's not with her fans, she's not whatever. When you look, and I think it was Scotty who posted it in our Wrestleview page. He showed, I think it was Scotty, but it was like 4 pictures of, I think it was like Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch and whoever. And it showed, you know, the guys like holding her and hugging. Like, I'm sorry. If I were Sasha and I thank you, Scotty. Yes, I thought it was you. I wouldn't want fans touching me either. Like, I mean, maybe I would get a little bit closer to them, but like, you have to think it's still COVID. And I know people are like, oh, well, pre-COVID, she was still like this and whatever. But like, I don't consider it like a pre-Madonna type thing that she doesn't want the people touching her. I wouldn't want people touching me. I have to be honest with you. If I was a superstar and I was doing meet and greets, I would probably shake their hand, and that would be the extent of what I would do. I would take a picture, of course, but I wouldn't be hugging and like letting them literally grope me in the back. I'm sorry. Like I people need to stop giving her crap for that. That's
Goosey's totally right with his commentary. Dude, wrestling fans have horrendous hygiene. It's true.
And some people are just creepy, you know? Like I wouldn't want that.
Look, you know, Sasha Banks, I have not been a fan of hers for
no, I'm not a fan of hers either
for a while, because she's somebody who really, you know, she believes in her own hype, and it's just strange. It's very weird. But you know, I think that they could, if she does come back, and I really do think it's a real possibility that her and Naomi will both.
I think back. They will be too.
They could roll this report, you know, and these pictures of her standing far away from fans into making her back to where she was in 2015 in NXT.
Yeah.
When she really was the boss and really had major heat and was a great heel. And then she came up and they made her, you know, like totally 180 from her character in NXT and made her a face. And then she just lost, you know, she would win a title and lose it immediately. And it was just, you know, it was just weird, you know, like they have never on the main roster unlocked the full potential of what Sasha Banks can do as a heel.
Yeah.
And you could take those reports and turn that, you know, to their favor and make her into this spectacular heel who goes back to that boss persona. It's always like, you know, she would come out and it's just like, oh, Michael Cole says it's boss time, but that it has no meaning.
Right. There was no context to it. It was just like okay, I said I'm a boss.
Yes. What is she the boss of? Because she sucks. You know, and I think this is really, you know, like one of those reports that, you know, where real life kind of
they can play into it.
Know,
yeah, absolutely.
What they're going to eventually do.
I'm just saying, I
really
like
great.
For anybody who like is like, oh, I don't understand, she hates her fans, like whatever. It's like, no, I don't want to be groped. I don't want to be touched. Like I'm not I'm not going to. It's just weird, like you know. But so don't give her shit. Give her shit about other things, but this, no, don't give her shit about. She wants to be 6 feet apart from fans. That's fine. Like
it's weird, you know, and we're having a spike in COVID. It's like
come on, give the girl a break.
You got to take care of yourself.
Anyways, back to Raw.
Anyway, you know, I'm not going to talk about every single backstage segment on the show, but the backstage segments have gotten so much better with Kevin Patrick and Sarah Schreiber asking, you know, questions that make sense and having more nuanced pointed promos that aren't there just to kind of like fill time, but actually advance the story, you know, much more. You know, it's you know, so often they would like catch up with somebody and then ask like the stupidest question, and then then the person doesn't even wind up answering the question. Like now it's like they're asking good questions again. And it's not a hole in the show anymore. It's not like a wasted segment, you know. So like you know, Kevin Patrick with Theory, You know, like that was a really good, way for Theory to kind of say like, yeah, you know, he has a good question about like, failing at money at SummerSlam, at cashing in Money in the Bank, because, like the commentator mentioning that, like something bad happened to somebody is like, that was taboo and now it's not. And, Theory had a good promo about how he miscalculated, but he's wiser now. It's, he's learned from his mistakes and next time he'll do it better. And that led to Dolph Ziggler coming up to him. And they had this really good back and forth about, Ziggler saying, I had the contract. I worked my way and I earned it. And I was smart about it. And I became world champion. And he goes, yeah, you were world champion. I'm happy for you. That looks great for you, but you're a has-been now. And the brawl that kicked off after that it just felt so much more organic than what they normally do.
Absolutely.
Even like the stuff with like the Miz and Ciampa where, Sarah Schreiber asks about, how does he move forward after coming so close to beating Bobby Lashley? And they made sure when they showed a video package of that match, that the commentator said that Ciampa took Lashley to his limits, put him over in defeat. He looked great in defeat last week, by the way. It wasn't like, he looked like a little, he had a good showing and then he looked really good even in losing. It's almost like he had no other option but to do that, like to just, save himself. It wasn't like cowardly or anything like that. And, he talks about, we don't hand out participation awards. Yeah, I was close to beating Bobby Lashley, but, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades here. The next time I get an opportunity to title, I'm not going to miss this time, so like, I thought that was a really good follow-up to that match. And then they had Ciampa and The Miz take on Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali. I thought for what it was, solid match.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think of The Miz now? That is a little distance from Logan Paul, even though he's still doing Logan Paul things.
He is, but I just couldn't believe the tiny balls chant was actually a thing tonight.
That's I know Andrew Elder isn't. I didn't see Andrew tonight in the chat, but he'll watch this tomorrow, and I'm going to tell you that the tiny balls thing is all Andrew's fault. Andrew in Nashville.
No, I think because very much I spoke about this in detail before, but Vince was very much Miz is very much a yes man. So whatever they gave him, he's like, yes. I like him teaming up with Ciampa. I like his heel shtick, the things that he does, and this didn't happen at this moment during this match. When he came out during Lashley and AJ Styles' match, having Ciampa distract Lashley so he can get to AJ Styles. It didn't wind up actually happening and whatnot. But he's getting back to like his Miz core, which I like.
Yeah.
Just the annoying stuff that he does and like the shtick of just like the cowardly heel interfering, things like that nature. Get back to that. That's what he needed.
One of my favorite things that Miz did tonight, it was like way, way early in the match. I actually think the match just started and Ciampa is in there against Cedric Alexander. They lock up and he backs him into the ropes. And Miz, I didn't even capture it in the recap, but I should have, and I'll probably go back and do it. But Miz was just like in the corner, getting in Alexander's face, just going like this. He goes, like, just giving him like, the stink eye.
Yes.
So good.
Yes.
And actually, these two are actually emerging as a pretty fun little team.
They are.
The Miz and Ciampa. Now, Ciampa.
And who would have thought, too?
But they're pushing Ciampa. They're elevating him. They're using Miz to elevate him. It's not like he's Miz's lackey. It's not
not at all.
It's not a Damian Mizdow situation.
No, this is not at all. And I think a lot of people.
I loved like when he came out during the U.S. title match, and you pointed this out too when we were watching the show that they started a tiny balls chant again when Miz and Ciampa came out, and that
and
Ciampa covers his ears. It's so classic wrestling.
It is, and you know what? But that's like Miz's thing, and that to me is Miz to his core. So like, I like that, and I think Ciampa has really been having a good showing too, just in general. So a lot of people underestimated him, and he very much is just like rising to the occasion.
Yeah,
it's great, and they work for each other. They're helping each other out, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was a good match. Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali. You talk about again, guys that are on the roster. They're above jobbers, these two, but they're definitely lower on the card. So you can expect a good match from them, but they're not going to win. And that's fine. That's okay. It's like, I hate when people go like, on a match like this, where like, oh, well, I knew Ciampa and the Miz were going to win, so it's not exciting. It's like, yeah, well, it's not everything has to be like, oh, like crazy exciting. But like, do they do enough to, entertain? And do they do enough to make sure that the Miz and Ciampa are just slightly more elevated coming out of the match than they were coming in?
Exactly.
And Ciampa got the two big moves of the match were, Mustafa Ali doing the 450 splash, but Ciampa knees him in the head out of midair. And then the big fairy tale ending, getting the pin.
He's great.
Like, that's what the match was for, solely to give Ciampa the win and make him look great doing it.
Isn't it
and
nice?
They did it. That's a success. That's, and it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, million near falls. Just that. It was effective.
Isn't it nice when there's a goal?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know. To me, I like goals.
we like that. The Ezekiel joke will continue. They had a pretty funny photo of Ezekiel in the hospital, and they called it a hospital, not a medical facility. It is a hospital. And he has his family, and it's like they photoshopped all these people, like, make his face look old to be his grandfather, and make his face look younger to be his younger brother. And have Elias there, and even Ernie Jr., his dad, talking about, if I get my hands on Kevin Owens, I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. So the joke continues for now. But I think it'll be slightly elevated humor rather than Vince's like fart and knock jokes. This is my favorite thing of the entire night, by the way. This segment coming up here with Drew McIntyre making his way to the ring with nothing but bullet points, and Kevin Owens making his way to the ring with nothing but bullet points. You cannot script what they did here. You can't script that passion. You can't script the delivery, because it felt real. It felt organic. Yes, they still did the your turn, my turn thing, but they even mentioned that, like, okay, I give you a chance to give you a piece of, give me a piece of your mind.
I loved
It's
that.
my turn now.
I loved that. I really like that. That's you're acknowledging that you gave somebody a chance to speak, but now I'm speaking.
Yep.
It's okay. I don't mind that type of interaction whatsoever.
Yep.
They had such good. I have to be honest with you. I'm not one for like promos. I'm not one for like elongated talking segments. I sometimes I'm more, that's why I appreciate pay-per-views more, because there isn't a lot of that going on. But I have to say, with this,
you need them though.
You absolutely do need them. But if you could get somebody like Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens to speak like they did tonight, whoa. I felt like I couldn't stop listening to them. I was like, and then by the time it was over, I'm like, wait a minute. Oh my God. Like this just took some time, but like, it was great.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they should be doing. That's stuff that should be happening. So let's talk about this promo here.
No other way.
How about that? So Drew McIntyre gets his way to the ring. He's, essentially following up on what he didn't get to say on Friday Night SmackDown, which was good. This show was, they were missing a couple people on the show tonight. Edge wasn't there, for example. Rey Mysterio was there, but they didn't have Dominic, so there wasn't much in terms of following up on that, which is fine. So they brought Drew McIntyre out there to kind of give the show a little extra star power here, and also Drew was taken off of the weekend house shows because of, a back issue. And I think, sending him out here and even acknowledging that his back is injured and then, spinning it into something else, was good for, people to see, because, again, we're trying to sell a pay-per-view here. And if you're thinking that, oh, Drew McIntyre's hurt and the next time you see him is, next week, on a Friday, it's like, you kind of start to like, you might start to think, this guy, they're not going to book him to win. There's no way. So they sent him out here tonight, just like 2 days after the reports come out that he has an injured back. And he has this great promo about, it started off with, wasn't great starting off. It was just a regular promo, how the Island of Relevancy is fictional, but, a Clash at the Castle, that is Drew McIntyre's island, and I am going to be walking away with the titles, and I'm going to defend them. I'm going to show up on Monday Night Raw. I'm going to show up on Friday Night SmackDown, all the live events, and anywhere the titles are supposed to be defended, because that's what WWE and the fans deserve. And he starts running off all these, potential matches that he could have, against Ciampa, AJ Styles, or Seth Rollins, or Karrion Kross, and how his back is hurt, but it's hurt because he's been carrying the weight of this company for the last 3 years. But he does it with a smile because it's a privilege. This is not a job, it's his dream, and that's why he's here on his day off. Well, Kevin Owens' name wasn't mentioned, so Kevin Owens comes out, he's all mad. And Kevin Owens, last week, I thought he had a really... I thought last week was just, what a great way to kind of repackage the guy and not like a long repackage either. It was just like instantaneous. He comes out, kills Elias. Like there's no, or Ezekiel, whatever his name is, right? Apron powerbomb. They don't even have a match. He just kills him. And then they have a promo, have a backstage interview with Kevin Patrick. Again, another effective backstage interview last week where he goes like, what do you have to say about, what you did to, what's his name? Elias, Ezekiel. What do you have to say about that? He goes, there's a lot of eyes on this show, and it's time to start reminding people who I am again, and I'm tired of, playing, I'm Kevin Owens. So he came out tonight to kind of reiterate that once again. And this was a fiery promo. It was just,
so good.
He talks about, how McIntyre's pretending to be something that he's not. He talks with the cartoon voice and wears the kilt and has a sword. But if he really believes he's been carrying the weight of this company, then he's a real dumbass. McIntyre doesn't know who he is, but Owens says that he hasn't changed in his 22-year career. He's as real as it gets in this business. People like McIntyre may have forgotten what Owens is about, and that is his fault. For the last few years, he's been coming to work and having fun. Then something dawned on him when he got to this arena. And he talks about how 6 years ago at Battleground, it's like, my God, Battleground's not even a pay-per-view anymore. He had a match against Sami Zayn, and they tore the house down. I racked my brain. I can't remember the match. I really can't. But I'm telling you, I'm going to go on the network after
and look it up, right?
After Better Call Saul tonight and watch that match, because I want to see what the hell he's talking about. I have no memory of this match that Kevin Owens had against Sami Zayn. But he said they tore the roof off the place, and it was in the same arena at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. And it reminds him that he misses that special side to him. He misses the old Kevin Owens, and it's time to bring back the Kevin Owens that people called the prize fighter. He hasn't, and this shocked me when he said this, that he hasn't held a title in 5 years.
Wow.
That's amazing. And it makes sense. So enough, and then he quotes Owen Hart and says, "Enough is enough, and it's time for a change. Every champion is a target. Intercontinental Championship, United States Championship, Tag Team Championship, all targets. And after Clash at the Castle, whether it's Roman Reigns or Drew McIntyre, they're targeted." And then Drew McIntyre says, "Okay, you said your piece. Now it's my turn." And he says he can't stand when people tell lies about him. 15 years ago, he was called the chosen one. Then he got fired. He worked on himself. WWE called him. He didn't call them. He's a two-time WWE champion. He beat Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, Randy Orton, and anyone that stood in his path. So Owens better not dare say he doesn't know who he is. But no matter what, they're two wrestlers in a wrestling ring. How about they wrestle? And Owens says, "You're no prize, but you're on." And I'm telling you, the crowd was buzzing on this one. The crowd is
so
buzzing.
Good.
They
so good.
Loved this promo. I love this promo. I was on the edge of my seat at the end of it. And I was like, oh my God. And I really thought that Owens was going to say, you're no prize, but you're on, except not here in DC. I really thought they were going to do that.
Oh yeah.
Instead, they go to commercial and they come back. It's Drew McIntyre versus Kevin Owens. And they have a killer, an absolutely killer,
amazing
pay-per-view quality match. Without question, is the pay-per-view quality match. Mm-hmm. Phenomenal. Crowds chanting, "This is awesome." They do a whole bunch of stuff. Frog splash off the apron, tons of near falls, future shock, counters to their finishers. Kevin Owens had a great spot, and the commentary was great in the match too. Kevin Owens had this great spot where hit a frog splash, covers Drew McIntyre. Drew barely kicks out, goes to the top rope, connects with a swanton bomb that he didn't connect with before. He got the knees up before, but this time he connects. And it's like, is he really going to pin the number one contender? And the commentators were even saying, like, what's this? What's a loss to Kevin Owens going to do to the momentum? They said it's going to kill the momentum for what he's built. And that's the story of the match. You're watching this match. Like, is Drew McIntyre crazy for accepting this match? And he's injured. His back hurts and this and that. Excellent match. Now look, it ends with a disqualification with the Usos attacking Drew McIntyre. But that doesn't, it makes sense they did that because look, they're building up Kevin Owens. Look, this is kind of a thing where they book themselves into a corner a little bit where they can't beat either guy. But the way it played out was smart because Kevin Owens at the end shouts that Roman Reigns owes him one now, and Drew McIntyre, still looks good coming out of it because he still does beat up the Usos at the end.
That's why I didn't mind so much.
It wasn't like a waste of time.
No. I know it wasn't like your favorite thing, but with the overall from start to finish between the promos and the match itself, I was fine with it. Like it really worked itself out, and it just, I felt myself almost watching a movie when they started, with their promos, and then the match actually happened. That's where you couldn't take your eyes off of the entire thing. And I did. I found myself like when I looked at the time, I'm like, wait a minute, like that took up a huge chunk of time, but like in a good way, because it was a story. That was like a story in the making right there in front of you. It was incredible.
And really, they delivered a hell of a match. Like again, those reports are going around. It can convince you that Roman Reigns is definitely winning now. Drew McIntyre didn't look like anything was slowing him down tonight. There were, Kevin
Not
Owens,
at all.
he was lifting Kevin Owens up with ease. Like it doesn't seem like it did a lot to like kind of reinforce some some assurances about Drew McIntyre and his status. So I thought it really phenomenal match, pay-per-view quality without question. And then they follow up this with another really high quality segment. This one was classic wrestling.
I feel like I was getting hit in the face with all this stuff.
I mean, this second hour of Raw was outrageously good.
Yes.
Outrageously good. You got Seth Rollins coming out to the ring. Explain this outfit.
Oh my God. He had like the almost like see-through.
Yeah.
Like,
it's absurd.
Black, and then like the pants, and I was just like
tie-dye pants and like a black sheer
shirts. Like this black sheer shirt, and I was like, man, what is this? But he wears it with confidence.
It was outrageous.
It was outrageous. But it was very Seth Rollins.
it was very Seth Rollins, and really he's been phenomenal. He comes out. He goes, I just want to have a front row seat to the big news because Matt, Riddle is going to be coming live to us from his mother's basement and finally doing the right thing and retiring. I was like, all right, good. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
He's not retiring. He's not in his mother's basement.
This is just classic wrestling from two guys who get it. Riddle cuts him off and says, he's glad that Rollins is out there so people can see what a slimy piece of trash he is. He does have a medical update. So Rollins says, this is the moment we're all waiting for. So please be respectful of Riddle. And Riddle says, yeah, I'm medically clear. The next time I see you, it's on. So Rollins like, okay, it's on like, what happened at Madison Square Garden a few weeks ago when I stomped you twice, or at SummerSlam. Whenever we're in the same vicinity, it ends the same way with me stomping your head into the mat. And Riddle says, Rollins says that this was the key line in the whole thing. He goes, I wish that you were here so I could stomp the rest of your brain cells out of your
we
head.
knew at that point what that meant.
As soon as he said that, it's like, obviously
he's here.
Riddle says he's glad that Rollins said that because he's not in his mom's basement. He's actually in DC and he's coming out to kick his ass. And instead of like, like so often, how many times would somebody have like a real beef with somebody and then they make their entrance like and walk to the ring?
No,
I always
ran.
That,
no,
or like the night after losing a title on a pay-per-view, they come out smiling the next day. It's like,
and they're like this.
Really? Come on.
No, he ran out there.
He ran down to the ring, avoids the stomp. They have a great brawl. Rollins goes running at the end of it. So, I mean, that's just wrestling. To me, that was just a great wrestling angle.
Yes. Classic.
Exactly.
Oh, it was great.
By the book.
It was so great.
That's how you bring somebody back after they've been.
And then, Seth, I really like too, Seth Rollins was looking around in the ring. He's like, where's he coming from?
Yeah.
He didn't really know what direction he was going to be coming in.
And you know, he sent running the crowd, you know, Riddle standing in the crowd at the end because he chased him through the crowd and they're chanting bro. And I'm like, that's a great segment. You know, Riddle is more over now than he was before coming into it. Perfect.
It was great
stuff.
too.
You know, like I was kind of bummed when the SummerSlam match didn't happen. I was like, wow, that was kind of screwy, but it makes sense.
Now it makes sense. Totally makes sense.
It was the right call to hold off on.
It was. They really built this. Now they're really able to build this up and
rather than being
it the right way.
Because rather than being a great match on a show that already had great matches, this is going to really have a chance to really shine and be put in a featured spot at Clash at the Castle, where it's not going to be overshadowed by like a Brock Lesnar and
exactly
tipping over the ring.
Of course, SummerSlam type thing, but yeah, it was great. It was really, really fun.
I just loved it. I mean, that's all I have to say about that. It was perfect wrestling. We already talked about the squash match, which again, perfect wrestling. That's exactly what that match should have been. This guy, Bo Keller, I'm telling you, this guy they should hire that guy and start up like a jobber pool. You know, we need a job squad in 2022.
Yes.
You know,
let's do it.
So let's get that going. You know, we had Dwayne Gill, who turned into Gilbert. You know, he was a great jobber for a long time. Brooklyn Brawler was a great jobber character.
Yes.
You know, like we need those people again. Bo Keller's first on my list. How about that?
Why not?
And then we go to a United States Championship match with AJ Styles and Bobby Lashley. The first time they've ever faced in WWE. And this was our second pay-per-view quality match.
I mean, that's what's incredible about this. You're getting these on these episodes of Raw. This was history right here. It was literal history. And what a phenomenal match. Really. I loved it.
It was really good. It was you know, and they did a thing where I was kind of cringing during it because we already had the DQ finish, a screwy finish with Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre, which, you know, somebody set it up before. Brett Favre, of course. You know, he always has a really good commentary in the chat. Best DQ finish on WWE TV in years. I agree with that. I think that was really, really well done. But I didn't want to see another DQ on the show tonight. I didn't want to see any interference in matches after that. You know, because it's like, okay, you did it effectively here. Anything else is kind of cheap. You know, it's like, just give us a finish here. So when the Miz and Ciampa came out, I was like, oh, no, really? But it was done so that they could work in Dexter Lumis into this match, who appears to be going either after AJ Styles or Ciampa. Or
I think it's AJ Styles because he came after him. Was it last week?
Yeah, last week.
Was it AJ?
But AJ had also faced the Miz too, so the Miz is out there. So he's coming after the Miz. He's coming after AJ Styles. We don't know. That's what I really like about this. You know, the one thing I really liked about the Dexter Lumis presentation is that, you know, they bring back Karrion Kross. He just appears and he's with Scarlett and now he's back. You know, they bring back Bayley. She makes her entrance at SummerSlam. And they also bring back, you know, Io Sky and Dakota Kai, and they just make their entrances. Now they're back. We're bringing back so many people right now. And, you know, Hit Row came back on SmackDown this past week. So, you know, rather than just like having Dexter Lumis come out, it's like, well, why do I care about Dexter Lumis? They're giving you a reason to care about Dexter Lumis by building the story of this guy who keeps finding a way to get into the show. He's not on the roster. He's not part of the company. What is this guy doing here? And they're really making it look like it's a great shoot angle. And it's getting you curious about who Dexter Lumis is, because in and of himself, there's like, I was never a big fan of Dexter Lumis in NXT. But I'm really liking what.
But now you're kind of enthralled in what they're going to do with him.
I'm curious what they're going to do with him.
Yeah,
you know, and if you were going just off of like what he did in NXT, and you know now he's here, Dexter Lumis, it's like, ooh, I would be like, who cares? Like,
and what's his?
Like Dexter Lumis was very low in the totem pole of guys that I thought they should have brought back, but by presenting him in this fashion and debuting him like this and giving you a reason to be curious about him and care about him, rather than just saying like, well, he was in NXT, now he's back. Well, he wasn't great in NXT. I didn't think he was that awesome.
What he's doing now is and also it leads you to the point of what's his deal? Like, who is he going after?
Right.
What, like, why does he have, let's say it is AJ Styles. Why does he have beef with AJ Styles? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah,
it
what's going
brings
on
so
here?
many questions and curiosities where it's like, it's great. Because at first you think to yourself, like, even when it happened last week, you're like, wait a minute, who is
Right.
that? Like,
Right.
what's this guy? Is random fans coming into the, like, you never
Right,
know.
because 9 times out of 10 they just bring people back, like the way they brought back Karrion Kross and Bailey and all those people. They just kind of come out.
Which is
They
fine.
come out and they charge the ring. They look ominous
But
and they
this
move
is
on with their lives.
another
But this was
form of variety
a
to it.
smart way to, because we're doing so many of those types of, debuts.
And a lot of them are going to be like that.
A lot of them will be like that. Hit Row just kind of came out and they're back. Okay. But Dexter Lumis, it's different. You need like present him differently.
You need that variety.
He's a more mysterious character.
Yeah.
He's not the same as everybody else. So I really like it.
Yeah, it makes him stand out for sure.
Really, really good stuff. Very smart. And so they inserted that into the match. They got it out of the way. It didn't play into the finish. They went to commercial on that. Ciampa and The Miz were ejected during the commercial break. And then they just have the last half of the match with just Lashley and AJ Styles. Near fall after near fall, hope spot with the calf crusher on Lashley. And eventually Lashley avoids a phenomenal forearm and hits the spear for the win. I just thought it was so good. It was so well done. And Bobby Lashley, under Vince, it's like, okay, well, you're a monster and no one can ever touch you. Here, he's showing that not only is he a monster, but he's a great professional wrestler. You didn't really see that. You didn't really catch this side of Bobby Lashley, that he's actually a great worker, under Vince. So this is a whole other side of Lashley that's you can tap into, and they're bringing prestige back to the United States Championship. Now, there's 2 reasons why I think they might be doing this. There might be a third, but I'm not thinking of it. They've really done a great job building up the Intercontinental title on SmackDown. They're doing a phenomenal job of building up the United States Championship on Raw. Now, there's 2 reasons why I think they could be doing this. One is they're trying to bring these titles back to what they should be, which are, either champion waiting in the wings, main eventer waiting in the wings, or star-making platform for people. So that's what those titles were for. Like if you held the Intercontinental title, you were the heir apparent to the next, big main eventer, right? Or the other option is that they're not taking the titles off of Roman Reigns anytime soon, which I don't think they are. And you need a reason to care about these these shows and something to fight for. So turning these titles into destination television is key to survive the fall without the titles on the show.
Yeah.
So a couple reasons why, but if Lashley keeps having matches like that, it's going to go a long way, a really, really long way to, helping the show for the fall, and in the future, it's going to help to build stars.
I really liked in general how the presentation itself of the match, just to go back to Ciampa and the Miz interfering for a moment, I like how that happened during the commercial break. And I'll tell you why. Because then it leads people to think like, okay, here's a commercial break. Well, what happened during the commercial break? You miss something, right?
Right.
So then replaying it and it just allows you to understand, like when you come back and you just see AJ Styles and Lashley in the ring, and then you're like, oh wait, what happened to the Miz and Ciampa? What happened to Dexter? So it was just kind of like they're looking at ways of and trying to engage you a little bit more of like, wait, I can't miss this. I can't miss going back to it, because sometimes you think like, oh, something happens, like whatever, like they're not going to do anything that great during commercial break.
Actually,
but now we're like, oh wait, well, what do they do during commercial now?
Well, actually, that's another thing that kind of brings back to another criticism I'd like to make. And it's probably not on WWE, but the USA Network themselves. The Madison Square Garden show. No, I'm sorry. The Raw after SummerSlam, they did the first hour commercial free, and when they brought back commercials at the 9:00 hour, they did picture-in-picture commercial breaks. I think they should be doing picture-in-picture commercial breaks, so you can see, it's not just a throwaway what happens during these commercial breaks. I think people should see it as it's happening. But to your point, if they're not going to do that in the interim, have something interesting happen during a commercial break and then report on it, rather than just like, oh, this move happened. Like this is actually like, plays into the match really well.
I thought for this match it was fine. I get your point for sure, and I totally see what you're saying, but I think for this match, it worked in its favor.
Well, it's just like, you wouldn't go to break, while the ball is in play in the NFL or MLB, and if they ever had to, there would be, a picture inset so that you could see what the heck is happening. So I don't know. I like that AEW does that with their show. I think that's, and they do it with NXT. They do it sometimes, on SmackDown. So why not?
Yeah.
I thought that was a really great touch on that Raw. So let's bring it back. But this was a great match, really, really great match. And they hit everything. Might have went a little long because this next match with Dana Brooke and Dakota Kai this is Dakota Kai's first Raw match ever.
I kind of felt bad for her.
Singles match, and they had to just rush this thing.
Yeah,
they really
felt really rushed.
Not that they were going to bring the house down by any stretch.
No, but this is where they have to, and again, just to bring forth,
it's timing. That's all it is.
No, but just to bring forth another criticism, they do have to work on that though, because although you want to, no, I agree with you, but here's the point I'm trying to make here. Although you want to invest a lot more in a Lashley AJ Styles match, right? Because that was their first match ever facing together. You want to put a lot of time into that. You want to make sure that pans out. That story plays out. I'm just saying in the future, you do have to time it a little bit better, only because you don't want it to be a thing again, like, oh, well, it's just the women next, so we can have them rush through it. Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I don't think that's what happened.
I don't think that's what happened either by any stretch.
I think they want to bring the main event of Raw as being like something special again, because like if you think about what they were doing a couple months ago,
I totally agree
with Becky Lynch and Asuka, where they were getting like 3 minutes to do a main event. It's like, why would anybody want to stick through and watch this third hour? So they're trying to bring prestige back to the main event. You can't cut that match.
No.
It just so happened that Dakota Kai was there. It has nothing to do with the women.
Totally.
Yes, they need to work on timing, but when you have guys cutting bullet point promos and stuff like that, and it's going to happen. We're
not disagreeing with you whatsoever.
But
I'm just saying
they should have a plan B.
I don't
think they should have done the match at all.
I agree with you.
I think postponed it to next week.
I agree, because I rather see that match. And again, I'm not even a Dana Brooke fan, but like Dakota Kai, I'm interested to see her single match on her first time on Raw, right? That's fun for me to watch. I just think it's going to be perceived that way if you continue have your timing the way it is, and it's like, oh, it's a women's match. I'm not saying that's not necessarily happened, but what I'm saying is, it's like you do need to plan it a little bit better so the women do get that time in.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to.
No, I know. I'm just also saying that timing will come, but timing on a live show is always hard.
It is hard.
When you're doing a 3-hour show, it's just, I don't know. Like
they need to make sure that the women matches are long.
And while you have Bucky Beaver, still as the director, timing will always be an issue because they never learned.
It can very much be perceived though a certain way, so that's why I'm just saying they need to be a little bit more
that way. You could, and like I see what they're doing with the women, and it's such a humongous.
Oh, for sure,
leaps and bounds improvement over what they normally do. So. I give them a free pass on that, but I can see how others might be a little has some PTSD from that.
Just don't want any. I just want us to go.
It is. It sure is.
This
like I think they're promoting right after this match happened. They're promoting a big women's match for next week's Raw. Alexa Bliss and Asuka versus Dakota Kai and Io Sky. You can be sure that match is going to get some time,
as it should.
And they've done a great job with this tournament. All the tournament matches so far have been either really good matches or at least just good matches. Like I thought tonight's was a good match. It wasn't great, but it was good. And they had time to build it and make it seem important. So, it's leaps and bounds compared to what was going on just a month ago. But the main event, arguably, this is probably you could make an argument this was a pay-per-view quality match as well, with Theory and Dolph Ziggler. They've been kind of building this up a little bit, in previous weeks. We haven't seen Theory since he got destroyed at SummerSlam. So Theory needs to come back and look like somebody who deserves to hold the Money in the Bank. And Dolph Ziggler is a perfect guy for that.
I thought this match was incredible. At first, I was a little nervous because I'm thinking to myself, oh, are they going to have enough time to really well execute this? but they did. And they did very, very well. They had the two of them were almost like competing for like who could sell the best like moves.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I gotta say, Shell makes a good point here. Like this had opening show pay-per-view quality vibes. It sure did, absolutely. And I gotta agree with Jamel here too. Give that lad Theory his first name back. Let him be Austin Theory again.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to see Austin Theory come back, and I'd like to see Matt Riddle come back. It's just
I think they will do that. I have a feeling they will.
I hope at least they drop the freaking from Seth Rollins' name.
Seth freaking Rollins.
It's like you always have to say Seth freaking Rollins if you're a commentator. Always.
That would bother me.
It's like, really? Come on now. But this it went a long way to really kind of putting Theory over as a legit guy again, because he is kind of like a joke sometimes, especially like compared in the ring with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Like, God, like he had no chance at SummerSlam, and he shouldn't have. It is what it is. But if this is a guy who's holding Money in the Bank, you kind of have to believe that he should be holding Money in the Bank. He looked like a threat tonight.
You said this before, but I really enjoyed the fact that, like you said, about the history behind it. I mean, this was the perfect matchup. Theory is the Money in Bank holder. And, I say to this day, I sound like a broken record. I personally think Dolph Ziggler has one of the biggest cash-ins in WWE history.
Yeah.
Ever. So this was
Seth Rollins does.
Yeah.
That's the biggest.
But this was such a good matchup between the two of them. I liked how they worked the shoulders into it. You had Dolph Ziggler. When he was thrown in, he worked the shoulder. Then he did the retaliation with doing Theory and his shoulder. They were a very good pairing. Very, very good pairing. And I liked this, veteran, newbie. They really kept the commentators did a great job of this too. Really discussing about how Dolph's the veteran and Theory's like one of the the youngest United States holder and holding the Money Bank contract and all that. Like that again, good storytelling, a good build. Any other time, I feel like if this matchup, although it would have been good match because they just have good in-ring chemistry, but the way that they built it made sense for a main event, because I feel like some people were like, oh, it's a little random, right? Don't you think it's a little random that they were kind of placed there or they'd be having a match together? But because of what they did with the build and the history and then talking about the veteran and then talking about being the rookie, like it made sense and it worked and it made it so much more meaningful, I guess you would say, when they were wrestling tonight.
Yeah.
It wasn't random. It wasn't like, oh, hey, let's just put these two together because
I like how they've been doing this too. Like I don't think they expect their entire fan base to watch the entire 3 hours. The way they've been booking this show is very, in the last couple of weeks is very realistic. They don't expect everybody to continue watching the show, but if you do, you're going to get rewarded with a good main event. Like last week, AJ Styles versus The Miz in a no DQ match was fun.
Yeah.
The previous week before that, it was the Mysterios versus the Usos for the tag titles. Not gonna be a title change, but you're gonna see you're gonna see a good match, right?
Right.
And they had a good angle with the Judgment Day as well. It's like Theory and Dolph Ziggler. It wasn't like a major point of the show, but it was a strong main event, and like I said, an arguably pay-per-view quality match. I know a lot of people were saying like, well, why didn't they put the United States title, in that spot? It's just because you just can't expect everybody to last.
No, you can't. You can't.
People have such a short attention spans now. I think it's perfect to have the United States title for the next couple weeks or even the next few months be like the 10 o'clock hour.
I agree.
Spot. Like they were trying to do that with Cody Rhodes, making him the 10 o'clock spot. So you get people watching into the third hour. And if they want to continue after that, here's what else we got.
Something good to watch. Yeah,
and
exactly.
And this is our main event.
It made sense.
It's a viable main event, but it's not like one that it's like, oh, if I miss it, I miss it. It's not. There's not gonna be like a humongous story that happens. I think it's very, very smart. And Theory and Ziggler, if you stuck it out for the 3 hours, you were rewarded.
You'd be happy.
You'd be happy that you stuck it out. And I certainly I watched that and I was like, God, that did so much for Theory.
I could not agree more.
So much for Theory, and Dolph Ziggler got a chance to show why he's been around for the last, God, how long has it been? 14 years, 15 years in the company. even longer if you count the Spirit Squad thing and being Chavo Guerrero or Kerwin White's caddy
Yeah.
in 2005.
Yeah.
He's
He's been around a long time.
Almost 20-year career.
Exactly.
That's impressive. It's impressive longevity. But they let him show, why he's around.
Why he is who he is, I mean,
his selling,
he's always, I still think he's the best.
He's one of the best sellers, and he was getting killed by Theory and making him look like $1 million. Like I really believed after a while that oh, he's not just sending him to the ring post, and that's not just a spot anymore. He's actually hurting this man. Like we're watching something, vicious going on here, and it makes you believe in Theory, which is the goal. And also reinforces why when he comes back and does his scrappy comeback spots, why Dolph Ziggler is a great veteran in the ring. So look, it's a great way to close out the show. I really there wasn't one aspect of the show that I really didn't truly enjoy. Some things obviously I watch, I'm like, oh, there's room for improvement. There's always gonna be room for improvement. But damn, the 3 hours flew by. It didn't feel like 3 hours at all. I remember when the Dakota Kai match rolled around, I was like, I got to get up and kind of stretch. And I was like, my God, it's already 10:30.
I know.
I hadn't gotten up since 8 o'clock. I was like, well, no wonder why my back's killing me.
No, I agree.
Because it was just everything was oh, watch that. That was fun. I think the only other time I got up was to put the baby to bed.
Yeah. That's the only, honestly, I agree with you. That's the only, it's hard to now go away from your TV. I couldn't get away from the TV fast enough a couple months ago.
Sometimes the show,
I'm oh,
thank God.
And I'm oh, I gotta go do this with the baby. Oh, the baby's right here. Oh, I gotta do,
Yeah.
Honestly, I had morning sickness at the best time because now I can actually enjoy the show and not have to worry about missing much. It was great.
So strong show.
So what did you think of the show then? What would you give the show then, Mike?
Well, let's ask the chat. What do you give this show? I'll tell you what Twitter says. Well, it was wow. It is 88% thumbs up.
That's not bad.
These shows are getting big, very, very good feedback from people. People are enjoying it. I think last week's show had over 90% enjoyed the show.
It was 91 or something.
It was 91. SmackDown had 95%.
Wow.
Thumbs up on the show. And really, it's yeah, oh yeah, some people will vote down just because it's oh, well, my favorite person didn't win. It's some people are a little simple like that. But last week's show got 92% thumbs up, 8% thumbs down. I'll never forget that horse needle thing. The show got 96% thumbs down. It's crazy. I give the show, obviously, a thumbs up. 2 thumbs up, really. So I'll give it a Siskel and Ebert thing. What about you?
Same, 2 thumbs up.
All right. Daniel Shell, it's not boring to watch. Randy Tricola, thumbs up. Uncle Billy, up. Brett Farmer, thumbs up. We're getting there. I agree, 100%. Like I said, there's not a giant seismic shift that's happened yet, but I'll read you one of the comments that I made in here. They're absolutely on the right track right now. WWE is absolutely on the right track, and I don't care what their stock projections say. And with Vince gone, we're not going to be able to create character. We might not be able to create characters at the way that we used to, and we might see revenue fall. I don't think so.
I don't believe it.
I think.
Sorry.
I think the next hot period in wrestling has already started, and it started in mid-July when Vince retired.
Yep.
So we got that going for us here.
Tired.
He's gone for now. Machine Walls, thumbs up for an excellent show. Scotty Poindexter, 88% sounds like a B+ show, a couple of points away from an A. You can't just grade it just on that. You have to actually see it. This is a thumbs up show. Any show where you have 2 to 3 pay-per-view quality matches on free TV, crazy. Daniel Shell, thumbs up. Clash at the Castle and All Out has the potential to be wrestling heaven. Yeah, it really does. What a weekend for wrestling. Damn. Eastside, Jamel, I'm watching Raw regularly for the first time since I was a sophomore in college 11 years ago.
Wow. There you go.
Sophomore longer ago. Quentin Walters, Raw, a good Dexter Lumis, 5 thumbs up. Brett Farmer, I'm tentatively giving a thumbs up. It's improving, still has a ways to go.
Why not?
I think it's more than a ways. I think this is definitely a stark
But
improvement.
I respect
over,
his opinion.
Of course. No, but he's giving it a thumbs up. 2 thumbs up from Scotty. Thumbs up and a good week. I'm sports entertained from Jamel. Randy Turcola, if you're a wrestling fan, you could absolutely find something to like tonight. Post-Raw, 1,000 thumbs up. I like that. He's good. Triple H is making wrestling great again, according to Daniel Shell.
Daniel.
And of course, Quentin Walter is doing our job for us, reminding you to please subscribe, like, and share this podcast. If you enjoyed it, press the notification bell so you can be up to date on any wrestling news and live podcasts like this. And also check out Wrestleview.com and all the social medias and join in on the conversation.
Quentin, you're the best.
Thank you so much. And with that, everybody, we're going to wrap this up. This was a hell of a fun show to do, a fun show to talk about. It's great to hop on here and just be positive. You know, like that's the one thing we're talking about it on the SummerSlam show. It's just great to, like, you know, dream and, on wrestling again and just see potential and know that it could potentially be realized. You know, it's a real positive, really. And even tomorrow, you know, NXT looks like a good show. You know, like the show, the Heatwave show they got going on there, it looks like that's going to be pretty solid. You know, I'm thinking like maybe I'll recap that one too. I'm just excited about wrestling right now. But we thank you all for hanging out with us for the last hour and a half talking about this show. As you can tell, I'm very excited. I could keep talking about it, but I know I need to cut myself off here. So, Victoria, any final thoughts?
No, have a good week, everyone.
Have a good week, everybody. Stay healthy. Quentin, feel better. Everybody, be well. Stay, if you're on the East Coast, it's been very, very hot, so stay cool. And we'll see you soon. I'm Mike Tedesco.
I'm Victoria Tedesco.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.